3rd June 1943, Dover, Kent. A Luftwaffe reconnaissance pilot banks his Messerschmitt Bf-109 over the English Channel, camera clicking furiously as he captures what appears to be a massive Allied armored division spread across the coastal fields below. Row upon row of Sherman tanks glint in the morning sun, their gun barrels pointed menacingly toward occupied France. The pilot counts roughly 40 vehicles in this single photograph, intelligence that will reach German high command within hours, confirming their worst fears about an imminent invasion force. What the German pilot cannot possibly know, peering down from 8,000 feet, is that he has just photographed the most elaborate lie in military history. Those tanks weighing 35 tons each, they weigh less than a dining room table. Those steel gun barrels capable of penetrating German armor, they're hollow tubes of painted canvas. Those tracks that could crush a man, they're strips of rubber tacked to a wooden frame. Every single vehicle in that terrifying armored division is made entirely of wood, canvas, and wire, yet they will help win the Second World War. This is the story of how British craftsmen turned timber into weapons of mass deception, creating an invisible army that existed only in German nightmares. By 1943, the Allies faced a seemingly impossible challenge. Operation Overlord, the planned invasion of Nazi-occupied Europe, required absolute secrecy to succeed. German aerial reconnaissance flights photographed British coastal areas daily, meticulously documenting Allied military preparations. Intelligence analysts in Berlin pored over every image, counting tanks, estimating troop strengths, predicting invasion timing and locations. The mathematics were brutal. If the Germans discovered the true scale and location of Allied preparations, they could concentrate their defenses and turn D-Day beaches into killing fields. Existing camouflage techniques proved inadequate against this aerial scrutiny. Traditional netting and paint schemes might fool ground observers, but high-altitude photography revealed everything. The British needed to hide an entire invasion force numbering over 150,000 men and thousands of vehicles, whilst simultaneously convincing German intelligence that massive Allied forces were gathering in completely different locations. Previous deception operations had relied on false radio communications and double agents, but Operation Fortitude demanded physical evidence that German cameras could photograph and German analysts could count. The challenge seemed impossible. How do you hide a real army whilst creating a fake one convincing enough to fool the most sophisticated intelligence apparatus in the world? The solution emerged from an unlikely partnership between the Royal Engineers and Britain's film industry. At a classified facility in Hertfordshire, Colonel R.M. MacLeod assembled a team that included set designers from Shepperton Studios, theatrical prop makers, and military engineers. Their brief was extraordinary: create a complete armored division using materials that wouldn't show up on German magnetic detection equipment, whilst weighing less than a tenth of real tanks. The breakthrough came when designer Basil Spence, later to become a renowned architect, realized that wooden frameworks covered with canvas could perfectly replicate tank silhouettes from viewed above. Each Decoy tank began with a precisely measured wooden skeleton, dimensionally identical to genuine Sherman or Churchill tanks down to the centimeter. Lightweight timber struts, roughly equivalent to garden fence posts, formed the basic structure. Canvas sheeting, treated with paint that matched standard military colors exactly, stretched over this frame like skin over bones. The genius lay in the details that would convince aerial photography. Gun barrels were hollow canvas tubes stiffened with wire hoops, casting authentic shadows. Tank tracks were strips of rubber marked with tread patterns, weighted just enough to leave realistic impressions in mud.
Even the smallest elements received attention: canvas hatches that could open and close, dummy radio aerials made from piano wire, false exhaust pipes that actually produced smoke when small heating elements were activated. Manufacturing took place in furniture workshops and film studios across southern England, with over 200 craftsmen working under conditions of absolute secrecy. Each Decoy tank required approximately 40 hours to construct and weighed just 180 kilograms compared to a real Sherman of 35 tons. Production records suggest that roughly 400 complete vehicle replicas were manufactured, though exact numbers remain classified. These wooden phantoms found their first major deployment across Kent and Essex as part of Operation Fortitude South. Entire fake armored divisions appeared overnight in fields visible to German reconnaissance flights, complete with command vehicles, supply lorries, and support equipment. At Folkestone, a dummy landing craft depot materialized, featuring plywood vessels that, from 8,000 feet, appeared ready to ferry tanks across the channel. Similar installations sprouted near Dover, Ramsgate, and Deal, all designed to convince German intelligence that invasion forces were gathering opposite the Pas-de-Calais. The psychological impact proved devastating. German aerial photographs consistently showed growing Allied strength in exactly the wrong locations. If you're finding this interesting, a quick subscribe helps more than you know. Intelligence estimates inflated Allied forces to nearly double their actual size, forcing German commanders to spread their defenses across hundreds of miles of coastline rather than concentrating at the real landing beaches in Normandy. The Germans had their own deception programs, but nothing approaching this scale or sophistication. Their dummy installations used primarily painted canvas laid flat, effective against high-altitude photography, but lacking the three-dimensional realism of British wooden tanks. American forces experimented with inflatable decoys, but these proved too fragile for British weather conditions and too obviously artificial when photographed from certain angles. What made the British approach superior was its attention to every detail that aerial reconnaissance might detect. German cameras captured tank tracks in mud, exhaust smoke, even the shadows cast by gun barrels, all meticulously replicated by British craftsmen who understood that deception succeeds only when it anticipates every method of detection. The true impact of these wooden warriors remains debated amongst historians, but the evidence suggests their contribution was profound. German defensive preparations consistently focused on the wrong coastal areas, influenced by intelligence photographs showing massive armored concentrations that existed only as timber and canvas. When D-Day finally came on 6 June 1944, German reserves remained scattered across France rather than concentrated at the landing beaches. Perhaps more significantly, these deception operations pioneered techniques that influenced military deception for decades. Modern military camouflage still employs principles first developed in those Hertfordshire workshops. The understanding that effective deception must fool cameras as thoroughly as human eyes. 3 June 1943. A German pilot photographs what he believes to be Britain's most fearsome armored division. In reality, he captures the masterpiece of history's greatest carpenters, craftsmen who understood that sometimes the mightiest weapon is the one that fires no shells, moves no ground, spills no blood, yet wins wars by simply existing in the enemy's imagination. The wooden tank that never fired a shell may have saved more lives than any weapon that did.